Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Two Trees Podcast, and we are doing another Rambling Between the Trees. This one's going to be kind of an interesting one as we just returned back from Israel and of our 2-week trip over there. Had an awesome time. I am the host today. I'm Jacob Kessling. We have with us Mr. John Dillon.
Hello.
And we have some great guests that went along with us on this trip. We have Jeremy and Rose Moeller.
Hello.
Hello.
This is going to be, we're just going to recap some stuff. So
Jacob, are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm sick. If you can tell, my voice has changed. I thought maybe I can get some bass like John has, but anyway, yeah, I've been in bed since. I mean, our trip home was a long trip. I think we were counting the hours. I think we were up 31 hours till I got to bed. So I just can't sleep. I can't sleep sitting up. Can you guys sleep on the plane?
No.
Yeah, I bought this really fancy neck pillow, and it
doesn't
let me
matter.
sleep on the way back.
I get like the heat. My wife calls them the heebie-jeebies. You know, when your leg just starts, just tickles or whatever, and I just cannot get comfortable. It has been a curse. I remember in high school, I tried to sleep.
I'm going to ask you this from now on. You got the heebie-jeebies?
Heebie-jeebies, yeah. Like in high school, I would like be exhausted and lay my head on the desk like I just want to sleep, and then my body would jerk or something. I don't even know.
The way back, we randomly would find
hyperactivity.
Jacob like curled up under tables, like trying to get a little bit of sleep in. It was.
I can lay down on the
felt
floor
bad
and
for
fall asleep.
everybody.
I just can't sleep in a chair. I don't know. I can't.
Is
do
that
it.
why we kept having parties in the stewardess galley? We were up there helping them get water for
Yes,
people and
yeah.
chatting and yeah.
Yes, because it was. Just,
Oh, I didn't get invited to these.
I'm sorry. It was
Probably because I
party.
was sleeping.
It was over Scotland. I mean, we really connected over Scotland.
yeah.
Did you hear the distant sound of pipes?
We did not.
That's upsetting.
No, I did hear the French lady that couldn't figure out she could walk in an aisle between two people. I think she had enjoyed the beverage cart a little too much.
Well,
possibly.
good for her. You
She
know,
had
we were up there a
smelled like
very long
good
time.
wine.
12 hours. It was long.
Oh man, I loved Israel. The plane ride was brutal there and back. I had a rough. We got home at like 4 a.m. So we got a ride back with Red and Sis. They drove us to the hotel where our truck was at, and when we got there, their car was dead. So we had to find a way to jump the car.
Do you know what happened to us?
No.
So we went out, and got the car, and we drove it back to load the bags up. And Kirk and I, and this is, it's not a new car. It's a car like, I don't know, 98 or something, but it only has 70,000 miles on it. It's in immaculate shape. Anyway, car's still running. We got out of the car, opened the trunk. He popped the trunk or whatever. And Sheila was rolling up those suitcases. We were getting them all in, and they tried to get in the car. Well, all the car doors were locked. I don't know how they got locked.
You locked the keys in the car?
We were just tired. The car was running. The keys was in the ignition.
Oh,
What'd
this
you
had
do?
to be
I
like
don't
1 in
know.
the
Kirk has no
morning.
clue. He's like, I don't know how this thing locked. Anyway, so the back seat of this car, apparently the armrest can come open, and there's like an 8x8 square. So Sheila's like putting her head through it. So we went inside the airport and grabbed one of those what's those wet floor things. It was
Mops?
yeah, no, it wasn't. No. You know what? The yellow. It's like a.
Oh, the signs?
Yeah, but it wasn't like the typical bifold sign. It was one that is like fabric and it folds up. Anyway, so we grabbed that, kind of an umbrella. It was kind of like an umbrella. And she went on there and just fished that in and rolled the window down. That's how we got back in. But it's like, who wants to deal with this?
Did you put it
At 2
back?
o'clock in the morning, and we got to still drive.
Did they put it back?
Look, this is
I
important.
think we put it back.
You think?
Yeah.
Souvenir.
Dear
Sheila-
Indianapolis Airport, if you are missing
Sheila-
a wet
listen,
sign, please
Sheila
contact
would
Jacob
have.
Kessler.
Sheila would have put it back. I would have been like, screw it. Let's put it in the trunk. It's going home with us. This is a memory.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just didn't want to deal with that. Then Myra went over to the police, the cop that was here at the airport, and they're like, "Hey, could you help us out?" No, you're gonna have to call AAA. Okay, that's what we want to do. The car's running. We're gonna call AAA anyway.
I don't know. I was at the point where like I could have broke down in tears. I was so tired and I was hungry and I missed my wife and my kid and I missed bacon and
Oh
I
my
missed
gosh.
bacon a lot.
And cheese and meat.
Yeah,
together.
cheese and meat. Israel is a beautiful place. It is. And I think that I'm going to say this nicely, but
Say it nice.
they need to love on cheese more. Like
Yeah.
they need to embrace the cheese and just let it be.
Yeah. It's called a cheeseburger for a reason.
Well, they have it for breakfast.
Yeah, they also had fish for breakfast.
Yeah.
And like I'm all about it, hey, to each their own. It wasn't me. I would like to bring my own chef, I think. I don't have enough money to really be living the lifestyle that I think I should be.
So while we're talking about that, what do you guys think of the food there? I mean, we were there 14 days. We kind of stayed in four different hotels, mostly buffet style. We stopped at a lot of different places and had the same exact thing. But but what was your overall thought of the food?
So we're in Bethlehem, and we stopped by a place called Ruth's, and she made falafel and shawarma. And that was really good. Like, that was probably my favorite of the mass eateries that we ate at. I really liked that place. That lady was real nice. And
Is it because she served French fries?
You
I've
know,
never seen so many
and there was ketchup.
American
And there was
hands
ketchup packets with
shooting up in the
mayonnaise.
air. Yeah.
she knew her crowd. She
Yeah,
was like,
she
all right,
did.
these guys, they need a little love.
We're
And
always
she
in
hooked
search
us
for
up.
some kind of sauce and could find
Yes.
none.
Yes.
Terrible.
Someone
But if you go
needs
to other places, like, they have the sauces. It's just that we were eating at these places that are designed for a big tour bus of 40 people to roll up and be fed all at once. I think if we had like branched off and ate at more of like the street vendors or just away from the group, we would have been better.
Or just packed a squeeze bottle of Chick-fil-A sauce. That probably
That was a big
would've-
miss, on my part.
Yeah.
I didn't think that through.
Yeah, but to be fair, when you got 43 people and they can get plates on the table in 15 minutes, you'd kill 2 hours if everybody was wandering around.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. We really were sacrificing quality for speed.
Yeah.
To
That's why
keep
there was
moving.
not much seasoning or anything on it. But
Dipping sauces are the curse of the masses.
I love them.
Definitely.
I'm a
All
fan.
right.
well, so food was okay. I mean, we did have a lot. Most everywhere we stopped, it was either falafel or shawarma
So we really hit like
and some hummus.
a couple major places. We were down in the Dead Sea, and then we were up in the Galilee, and then we wound up in Jerusalem in that area. Which of those areas, Jacob, would you say did you really love? Was there one that stood out to you? Do you see yourself relocating at some point?
Oh man, yeah, relocate. No, you know what? The biggest overall thing for me, and the Dead Sea area was really pretty, and I imagine it would have been a lot better if it wasn't, the water levels weren't so low. I mean, it would have been really. I think that would have been better for me.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the Sea of Galilee area. I just thought not only was it pretty, but there was stuff happening, and you can see what was going on all around. I mean, you kind of had this good view of everything. And I like that the best. And I was partial. The hotel there was really awesome. We had a cool place to hang out at night.
Yeah, we were right on the water. We kind of had fake Inklings meetings out on the water, which was a lot of fun in the evenings. I think Galilee was gorgeous. Did it look like the what you were expecting when you were pulling up in the bus there?
No. I mean, knowing that it's rainy season and it's green, I wasn't expecting it to be green. Even though it makes sense in it's rainy season, I just wasn't putting those pieces together. And I think one of the biggest things for me too is I read scripture and stuff, and Abram's kind of stops in these areas, and I'm just thinking this is beautiful, fertile soil and such, and it's it's just so many rocks, and you see them; they grow all kinds of amazing things and stuff. But anyway, it was gorgeous, but I wasn't expecting so many rocks everywhere. I mean, we have flatlands and nice brown, black, beautiful soil here in Ohio, but then you go over there and it's like they're growing vineyards and all that stuff. But that I would not say, man, this is a great place to put a plow, and I mean, you had to be working on that thing all the time.
So when Jesus says, if these people don't cry out for me, the rocks themselves would cry out. I've always thought that it was, that's nice. The rocks themselves would cry. But I'm going to tell you, if the rocks in Israel yelled, the world would hear it. There are rocks.
So many rocks.
Everywhere. And so I just kind of looking at that was neat to me, because Jesus seems to have been very fast on his feet with these kind of sayings, that he seems to have been looking around and being like, you know what? He was pulling from the environment that he was seeing in a way that I didn't appreciate until I was there looking at it. You could just see the personality of the parables and the things that Jesus was teaching in even just the drive in the countryside. And I found myself going back over some of the stories and reading the parables and thinking like, well, of course somebody who grew up here would think that way. Whereas, I'm from West Virginia and we just don't think that way. Like it would have been a very different story if we'd had a new world perspective on this, and I don't think that were missing anything, but seeing it was beautiful and really helped a lot to just add character to the stories.
What do you think, Rose?
Well, I think that I agree with John very much. That was actually one of my biggest takeaways from the trip, because I expected to land over there with like my notes and my giant Bible and my.
You have to see this Bible to believe it. It's the NLT Study Bible.
It's the thickest Bible I've ever seen. It literally.
Okay.
You could really send Satan.
I bet it's
packing
got
with that
6.
Bible.
I bet it's 6 inches thick.
It's-
It wasn't originally that way, but it is now.
I did
it's
take
wild.
out the baby shower invitation after you guys were mocking me
Okay,
for
good.
stuffing my Bible.
We literally thought you had like a year's worth of bulletins in there.
No. But anyway, I like to learn. I love to take notes. I got all the maps. I got all the geography. I got all the knowledge. And I'm like going to land in the Holy Lands. Like, I'm here, guys, and now it's all going to come together. And I spent about the first 3 days going, where am I? It
For
was
real.
very discombobulating. And it was hard to wrap my head around where each thing happened, because I just like, it happens here in the Bible and you have this picture of what it looks like. And then you realize, well, wait a minute. If they actually walked here or there, that's like 40 miles. That didn't just happen in the next sentence,
Right.
And so trying to reconcile what I know of the Bible, what I know of the maps and the scripture, and actually standing in the places, it was very interesting. And I think I threw the note-taking and literally, like I took notes the first like 4 days, and then there's big blanks after that. And just enjoyed it instead. I put aside my like Western mindset of like, I need a PowerPoint like right now, and I need to come back with more knowledge. And just listening to our guide Yatsu take us through it by his storytelling, which I loved so much. I know it may not be everybody's thing, and I didn't know it would be mine, but that is how I learned the most on this trip, was listening to his heart, watching him talk about the Bible and Scripture and Jesus and God and the Israelites, and he did a fantastic job teaching me, and it taught me a lot, that there's more than one way to learn.
Yeah.
You don't always have to have everything at your fingertips and take intense furrowed browed notes.
Well, you came prepared. I mean, the weird part is for me is like same thing. I literally, it was way too big for me to swallow it all up, and I had to take a step back and say, okay, this will be trip number 1, where I'm just going to try to see everything and take in what I can. And next time will be more detailed stuff, because I was overwhelmed. I really was. I mean, 14 days, you think, oh, we gained a lot in. But there was just, other stuff we didn't see. And we still it was just a lot. What about you?
I don't know of anything I didn't like, but
Falafel.
yeah,
Shawarma.
yeah, by the end, absolutely. I don't need one for quite a while, but I actually really liked the very first day we went to that. I don't even know what they call it. I think they call it a park, but that lady was there with all her plants and like talking about all these plants and what they can do and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked that. And then also, as far as what I thought it should look like, I think the old city hit that just heads on. Like, you stand back and you look at it, and it looks exactly like it should. And then I liked all the I really liked watching the Palestinian neighborhood and stuff, like from the old city of David, where we could look out. I could have sat up there with a pair of binoculars and just spied to my heart's content for hours.
Yeah.
There was staring to be done.
Well, and it's strange. Like on a map, it looks like they're like 2 centimeters away. And then you look down that hill and up the next hill, and you think to yourself, I don't want to go down that hill. And I definitely don't want to go up that other hill. Like, and so places that are really close are really far away in terms of, walking places, which is how those people were moving. Like, you may only be going a couple miles, and it will take you a long time to get there, because there's no straight ways to move around. Here in Ohio, you can go just about any direction, and it's flat. And moving around is pretty easy here. In Israel, when we were there, the mountains, the valleys, they really define everything. Your ability to move around is dictated by what the ground is doing, which also adds to the storytelling. When you're looking at things and you realize, well, they couldn't really have just approached this from any direction. Somebody made fun of me for saying willy-nilly the other day, and I was going to say willy-nilly again, but I won't.
Yes.
Instead, you could say heebie-jeebies.
The heebie-jeebies
that's
has replaced
interesting.
willy-nilly.
Yeah, right.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about who has those problems.
So like when we were at Shiloh and looking where they believed the tabernacle was, it's right at the mouth of a valley. That makes total sense. As you're walking up this valley from the Jordan, it would have been kind of hemmed in on both sides by those mountains. And just looking at, like, I don't know who in their right mind would decide, you know what, I think I'm going to go up a couple hundred feet this way, up this sheer precipice, and then come at it crooked. You go up the road. And it just helped me to put myself in, what did this look like? And I struggled at Shiloh because I had a hard time just trying to there were so many cultures built one on top of the other. I had a hard time telling what was Canaanite and what was Byzantine and what was Arabic. And in the end, I just kind of came away and realized, you're going to have to hit maps when you get home. Just right now, just love where you're at and try to
take all kinds of pictures of people.
Take pictures. And the wind was horrific.
Oh, my.
At Shiloh.
Yeah, how did they ever hold this tabernacle down?
I cannot.
No, seriously, because
Yeah.
where they said it was, I mean, you couldn't hardly.
We can't even keep a trampoline down in our yard. And they had a flapping, windy area full of tabernacle. I really don't know how they did either.
A
Flappy,
flapping
windy
area
area.
full of tabernacle.
Well,
I really liked going up. I don't even remember what that hill was, but it was when we were the closest we got to Mount Hermon, and that was just
Arbel,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
That was just a neat spot to be.
That's because you were looking for giants.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's that story, that place we were at is full of those stories.
I did not do the Bigfoot call up there because
Yeah,
I was
that's probably a
afraid
good
somebody
idea.
might call back.
Answer.
Yeah, there was no messing around with that up there.
Well, and in that place too, it was that's where we saw Nimrod's castle, right up there. So it's like John was saying, it's very
so.
getting all the layers there. There was a Crusaders castle, there was military outpost from like the War of 70 something. And then you're looking at Mount Hermon, and it's just there's almost too much history in one spot to really process it. I mean, you don't get a handle on it, and then you move on, And it was like that for me a lot of places.
That was in Bashan, that area. Yeah, just for me, piecing all that together, what they would have saw as they go out their doors. Here's Mount Hermon. I mean, and that's even visible from Galilee. It's visible from right anywhere.
It
on a clear
appears
day.
and it disappears depending on whether it's a clear day or not. And you can just totally tell how a people who looked around them and told stories to depict the world that they were in would look at a giant appearing and disappearing mountain with snow on the top, unlike anything else, and they would say, this is a great opportunity for me to tell you the story of a day when the powers of heaven interrupted the flow of life here on the earth. And so it really just was very humbling to be in those places. Like, I think I'm a fairly knowledgeable person. I study a lot. And realizing that unless I was there to see it, it would always be black and white in my mind as opposed to in color. And seeing it that way was just so enriching for me. I just loved it. There were so many. I have way more questions now than I had when I got there. And I think that's great for someone like me who would rather be, reading a book than just about anything else. And so I've come back with I'm on the hunt for articles. I want to know lots and lots of things. Kirith Arba, I want to know a ton about what was going on in Hebron. I just have a long list of things to read now.
Yeah,
Not that I didn't have it before, but these have moved up the list.
I'm gonna jump all over the place, but feel free to jump wherever you guys want to, or come back to something if I skipped over you. But Masada was another really cool place for me, or even going over by the Dead Sea in general. All that entire area that we visited was a lot of cool spots. But Masada, for me, Herod's a little bit. Well, he is psycho. He had to be just paranoid. But man, that guy built some cool stuff
And didn't care about it.
Well,
now think about the Herodian when we went there, and they have those what are those called, frescoes? The plaster paintings,
Yeah.
that they tried to tear down because, hey, I'm done with this now. I think I'll make myself a tomb here, and I can't have this along with my tomb, so I think I'll just go ahead and tear this down. Like, it's not.
Did you like Masada?
I did like Masada a lot. I like the story of Masada, for one thing. I think it's interesting, and then just it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So the engineering it would take to get water and all that to that place is just phenomenal. to
Jacob,
me.
why don't you tell the story of Masada? People may recognize the name without recognizing exactly what that is.
I mean, I learned about it when I got over there, but apparently Herod, in his growing paranoia of thinking he was going to live 1,000 years, but he wanted to be a place to retreat. He builds this place in a remote spot. There really was strategically a beautiful place. There was no way up or to penetrate. So they build this area. He stores tons of food, and it was for him. I think he only visited there one time. I think that's what they were saying. But he had this. It was a 3-tiered kind of a castle on top of this hill. And again, there was one way kind of up. But even Rome, when they tried to get it, it took them some time, and they had to build some kind of bridge, wood bridge or whatever, to get up there. And for me, it's like I was thinking how psycho Rome was. Like, just let the 1,000 people that are living there go. Who cares about them? But they had to conquer everything. So I mean, they found their way up there. But
Yeah, I really did not like Masada. Like, I think it's
you just felt it was dark. The story behind it was just kind of weird, right? I mean,
yeah, I felt, first of all, I don't like heights, and it was definitely, you got to take like this super ski lift up there, and I
It's
didn't,
called a cable car, and it was perfectly safe.
except for the heart attack I was having on the way up
I
there.
got a picture, and you're smiling in it.
Yeah, that's
so.
fake. That's totally fake. But I mean, the people who were in Masada, when they realized they were going to be captured,
these
and they
guys
were,
are probably zealots of some sort.
yeah, they're freedom fighters.
Yeah.
And they knew they were going to be killed and their children and their wives taken into slavery, and so they drew lots, and they killed themselves.
Killed their own kids.
They
and
killed their
wives
own
and
children.
themselves. Yeah.
And I think just the idea of the heartbreak that happened on that hill just messed with me. And so I'm looking around at these things, and you can definitely take the approach that Jeremy did, and that's the engineering is spectacular. Just the amount of organization that it took to put something like that up there, and that it ended in streets of blood and just hopelessness. And then when the Romans were done with it, they just left it. And yep, there's a picture. No, that's not. That's me screaming in this picture. That's not a smile. That's terror. Don't. It's the sunglasses. You can't tell my eyes are.
You do look a little freaked out now that I look at it carefully.
We were packed in this cable car. I mean, we thought there was too many on there, but they said they can get 60.
They were just like pushing more people and more. They were like, "No, come on. There's still room. There wasn't room 20 people ago. Let's stop this madness."
So by the time the Roman soldiers got up in Masada, everyone was dead.
Yeah, they breached the last wall and they realized everyone has died. And
Not quite true. There was at least 2, maybe 3 survivors.
well, that doesn't cheer me up either.
Well, yeah, the story of some of that may have
Yeah,
hidden.
they hidden the quarry.
names,
And
yeah.
it's not just the engineering, too, but just the whole story. I mean, I don't know why I find it that fascinating, but just the dedication from both sides. And I thought it was interesting. Our guide kind of made it sound like it was just simple people that ended up there for safety. And I'm so skeptical of that, I don't buy it. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And I think Rome, that's exactly why Rome wasn't just going to let them be. And, you know, they built, I mean, this whole thing, what did it take, over a year or something like that? And they built this ramp. From
Yeah,
Earth.
they more
And
or
this
less-
hill is not just a hill. I mean, this is
It's a
big
mountain,
hill.
yeah, and it's drops from way down low to the sky, and they moved the earth until there was a new way up there, and then by the time they got up there, they breached the walls and there was no one living in the fortress, and I thought it was heartbreaking. He wanted us to go into these apartments where the people were living, and I didn't want to go in there. I knew what happened in there. Like, I knew the story. I'd read Josephus, and to me, it wasn't just when you stop it from being just a pile of rocks, and you really think of it as this is where this happened. This is where some father's heart was ripped to pieces. You know, with the idea of what he had to do, and I don't know. I came away feeling just down in the dumps after having been up there. Everybody else was all super excited, so I just figured I was weird.
Yeah,
You
we're
are?
like looking at the scenery.
It's true.
Well, just a few miles down I'll say lakeside, but the sea,
The
Dead
toxic
Sea,
lake.
yeah, was another location where a lot of scribes were building their own living places
Yeah,
and writing
Qumran.
scripture. Yeah, and this is where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and kind
They're
of got
still
a little
finding the Dead Sea Scrolls.
still there. What I did not realize is how many stinking caves. There's
Oh
caves
my,
everywhere.
yeah.
There's caves all over the place.
Mhm.
And if you were looking for somebody, I don't care how many people you have. I imagine how difficult it would be just to search for someone because there's caves everywhere.
Well, it's no wonder the scrolls were hidden for so long. They literally are everywhere. We drove by so many hills and mountains, and Jeremy kept going, "There's another cave," and I'm like, "How many times are we going to say this?" Because there's
Every time.
there's hundreds and hundreds of them just all over, and just full of who knows what.
So,
you know.
Out of all the locations that we looked at, what were some of the things what were the similarity? What's something you almost always found every place that we looked?
1, 2, 3.
A cistern.
Yeah.
There's got to be a cistern.
And it was so weird to me, like even like their bathhouses or their places, their mikvahs, it had to be living water. Now, it wasn't necessarily running in that little pool that I was sitting in, but it had to come from the Lord, meaning it ran off of the mountains or off of the hills, and God filled the pool, not man.
So they would actually take, sometimes if they couldn't do that, they would fill it with regular water from a well, and then they would bring water from a living source, and they called it the treasury, and they would pour it into the water as though it was giving breath, life to the rest of the waters that was there. And I thought that was a really almost like Genesis type moment of breathing life into something. And I thought, whenever they did that, surely they must have thought, just like we're breathing life into these waters, God has breathed life into us. And so when they would go down into the waters to approach sacred space again, all the stories mixed together in these passages that to us are very clearly separate and over here in their nice little Old Testament pocket. And they don't roll over into what we're doing today. It was interesting to me just to see not the arguments about what type of baptism or how many times you dunk or whatever, but the idea of, what is the purpose of this? What are you remembering? What are you approaching? And it was very interesting to me in places where you would not expect to find that kind of use of water, because water was super precious to them, and that is the way that they chose to separate themselves out for sacred space. I'm going to go down into the water and come up a new person.
I was just impressed on just how they dug and built stuff. I mean, just the commoners, I guess. Herod's stuff was super impressive, or what they built around the temple bowls. That was just amazing. But the digging these cisterns and how they did all that stuff, I thought was just amazing. Watching the natural water flow and just taking it in there. One of the things I didn't know, speaking of water flow, is that the Dead Sea is drying up. And it's not because of any natural phenomena. They actually blocked off. The Dead Sea was being fed by the Jordan River, and they've kind of dammed the Jordan River from flowing into the Dead Sea. And and most of the water, all the other water it's coming off of is being captured for other places. But anyway, so it's drying up, and that's sad for all the hotels that planted themselves next to the Dead Sea, because we got in it and it was like what, I don't know, it felt like 3 feet, 2 feet of water.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts when we got in the Dead Sea?
The Dead Sea water is weird. It's like it's trying to throw you out of the water. It's pushing on you. And so it takes
like lifting you up.
It takes zero effort to float, which is a strange feeling. And even then, when you're laying down in the water, you're up higher than you would be in like a natural pool.
Sheila's like, it just smells bad.
It did smell bad.
It's really good for your core because your back's up and your feet are up and you have to kind of balance. And so you could really feel that.
So I went in there barefoot.
No,
and that was just a bad idea.
That was a bad idea.
If anyone listening goes there, make sure you bring some shoes. That just was not a good idea.
So they said wear shoes and don't go underwater. Don't get it in your eyes. And you didn't wear shoes. And I know John Lehman basically dove into it and came up screaming, like my eyes.
That's because I wouldn't go underwater in that stuff.
No way.
No way. There's salt everywhere. Like it looks like it hailed big balls of salt all around the Sea of Galilee.
Well, it exfoliated my feet.
Me
it was
too.
good. Anyway,
blood gushing out of your
I didn't get
wounds
cut.
there.
I did see someone who was bleeding though. Anyway, so Dead Sea was okay. I expected it to be a little different than it was, and it wasn't expecting to be as low as it was, but it was still cool. It was cool to be in there and be part of that. Caesarea Philippi was another spot I thought was pretty cool. Just the stories that were there. What was your guys' thoughts being?
I loved it. I loved Caesarea Philippi. It was one of the places that we went where the worldview of the ancients was visible. You had all the things that were important to them, and you could see how an ancient person would just walk into that space and know immediately, this is something special. The water is springing up out of the earth everywhere. And then there's this gigantic cave, and the water is gushing up out of there. It was even for me, like having gone in there, and I've read about that a lot, and the way that the gods were worshipped there. But it was very humbling to be there and to just hear the words of Christ. That the gates of hell will not prevail against what I'm doing.
Yeah, standing there, I think that and understanding what that place meant and what Jesus said, it
felt very
together.
brave.
Yeah.
Like to me, and I've always referenced that. Well, of course, Jesus, you're God and things, and it's no problem for you. But going there, you could just tell this was the center of paganism for a huge part of the world, and there was money there, and there was power there, and the host of heaven, of the fallen host rather, I've no doubt was assembled there. And for Jesus just to walk in and declare who and what he is was like, to me, I just thought, wow, like for you to do that is to show that you truly do have authority of all powers on heaven and on earth, that you are exactly who you claim to be. And so for me, it showed me Jesus as very courageous and what he was talking about and what he was doing. And I really loved that.
I love that you're saying that in the sense that Jesus wasn't just throwing any kind of phrase out there. It actually meant something to them, and being there helped us kind of get a visual and knowing what probably happened at that space of sacrifices of not just animals but humans, and what it meant for them, and for him to stand up there and say those things. I think it's just an awesome thing. I keep thinking about like how Jesus reused phrases and stuff and used stuff that was common to them. And one of the other things that I learned, and this is moving us out of Caesarea Philippi, but was Herod's kind of palace or castle or whatever he built himself. He literally moved half of a mountain that was next to it to add dirt onto his mountain. And this idea that that Herod's moving mountains, it seems like Jesus kind of used that phrase too.
Yeah,
what do you think about
faith
that?
like a mustard seed, you too can move mountains.
Yeah.
If Herod can do it, then we can do it.
I was, when we went up on there, I was expecting, because a lot of places you got to, you see these like a lot of remnants of rocks and maybe the bottom layer of stone. You're like, well, at one time this was a very beautiful place. It's like, okay, let me use my imagination. So, but when you look up at the hill, you see that's what I thought I was going to see, just a little one or two layers. But when you actually get inside there, you realize a lot of it's kind of behind dirt. So,
yeah, he's talking about the Herodium, and one of the best tools at your disposal, guys, if you're listening to this, is Google. It will show you maps, it will show you videos. You can see these things even without traveling there. But it really looks like a mountain and like a volcano. And down inside the volcano, he built a city. And I don't know how often he hung out there or anything, but
well, it's where he was wanted to be buried, right? It was a mausoleum for him, and the hill was very obviously man-made. It was, parts of it anyway, but it was so. And then, like you said, you walk around the other side, and it's like, whoa, there's a whole building going on here, and columns.
Did you get a feeling though that like if we combine our powers, like we're capable of some fantastic things? That I know that
the four of us combine our powers.
Yeah, the four of us, but like the church in general. Like when we assemble ourselves together, it's more than just like what's our goal? What are we trying to accomplish? I know we live in kind of a small town, and we're capable here of being a loud voice for the message of Jesus. And I have no intention of moving a mountain, although Ohio could do with a couple. But the idea of really letting the kingdom of God be seen. And Herod was obviously wanting his kingdom to be seen. But what he left behind was fear and hatred and fallen stones. And so when I see these things, it wasn't just the engineering, but also the line that Jesus is taking of the kingdom of God is at hand. How will you know? That by their love you'll see these things. And just rather than being little tribes in our little buildings, just waiting for, guests to show up, but really to see ourselves as a movement of Jesus people loving the Lord and being together and to accomplish His kingdom, His will. And we even pray that, your kingdom come here.
Well, I think that a good example of that was a lot of the churches we went to. We would sing in them. They were beautiful with lovely acoustics and high ceilings, but we weren't the only ones. There would be other groups there, and they would sing songs that we knew in their language, and it made me cry. I would listen to them singing, and we were weren't really waiting for our turn to sing. We were just enjoying the place wherever it was. Some of them I enjoyed more than others, and they were, I don't know. It was really special to be able to spend time with other believers, even though we didn't know them. We didn't know their names. We didn't even know the language they were singing in. And even our group, our tour together was a good mix of all different believers and different places and spaces. And we all just spent 2 weeks up in each other's business and came away friends, and we had some we had some really good conversations. We learned a lot about each other and each other's churches, and I watched each other taking care of one another during the trip, helping each other with luggage and baggage and talking to each other and getting food together and stuff. And it was a really good experience. It makes me think about what you're saying, the different believers and the way to show the world, the church, and the love.
Awesome. We'll switch topics a little bit. Dan was another
you just
area.
totally disregarded her.
I know.
Her feelings there.
Yeah.
Moving on to how I feel about
this
things.
This is what it's like to record with boys.
It's true. Yeah. Let's have a moment. Let's not have a moment. So Dan,
there will be no moments.
Yeah, we're not having any of those. We share our feelings. Our relationship started off really, really funny.
Yeah,
First
be
of
careful,
all,
buddy.
we had a long flight there, and then it was like go, go, go. Once we got to Israel after the flight, we were on a bus and we were going to our first location. There was no back to the hotel. Who cares about your jet lag? We're gonna get this
done. It's like my feelings. Nobody cares about your jet lag.
That's right. Nobody cares. Yeah. Dang. Okay. So I'm not gonna get to my story.
I'll tell the story.
I'll just know it didn't start off well with us, and so by God's grace, we are now friends. But
the end.
The end. It's good. So one of the things that I thought was interesting while we were there.
No. You walked up to her and were like, "So I hear you're a legalist."
That's not true. I asked if her church was legalist. I wasn't saying.
So scale of 1 to you guys.
I mean, are we allowed to tell everything? Because I think I was like, so tell me how that whole church merge thing's working out for you.
Yeah.
Or something like
that.
snarky.
Yeah.
Like
I'm sitting there eating popcorn, loving that the whole world is falling apart around me.
You were eating hummus enthusiastically.
It was great. It was people pay money for this kind of awkwardness.
Yeah.
It was super awkward, but we were tired. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's great. Listen, if God gave a delay from brain to mouth, I'd be golden. But sometimes I just
I'm glad He didn't. I enjoyed every second of it, and it worked out well. We be brethren.
We decided
they're
it
no
was
longer
the best
legalistic.
way. Yeah, and your church is thriving, and so and the thing too is like breaking the ice is just. That's the way to do it, man. Just jump in
and shatter everything.
Yeah, right.
I do not recommend this course of action at all.
It was perfect. It worked out great. I mean, only because we were stuck together for the next 13 days. Otherwise, you would have thought how weak. Like, I never want to talk to that guy.
It's like
again.
when your kids are fighting and you make them sit side by side. And
for 13 days.
Yeah, for 13 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll just change the subject
Do
again. Dan was another thing that I thought was interesting. So God allotted Dan his portion of property, and apparently the Philistines created havoc for him. They looked for a different location, and they decided to plot down up north and
in Bashan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. I thought that was a really interesting place too. And I think it was Rehoboam who had a temple or a altar, kind of set there. But I always wonder, like, do they only worship God of the Elohim or the Creator God, or did they worship other things? I mean, this is my question at every location that had an altar when they're supposed to come to Jerusalem to worship, and they had an altar at their location. I that was the question that I had in my mind. My mind always went to they were worshiping other gods, and that's probably true.
I think it's exactly what was happening there. Dan was beautiful. Like the
It was.
water springs up out of the ground there. We took a long walk through a forest, and there was just water springing up underneath our feet. There were springs everywhere, and then there's this massive town, city with walls, and there's an ancient gate there called,
Oh,
you know,
the
it was just
gate.
really
I
cool.
was-
Abraham would have been there. And so I enjoyed
Is
just
that
the
where
history
Ahab,
element.
Ahab sat?
Yeah, Ahab had the walls rebuilt, and inside the gate is a place where you know, you hear people talk about that so and so sat in the gate, and they still have the pedestal where whoever would have been sitting in the gate would be, and there's a small mastaba standing stone next to it, and so I was able to talk a little bit about the ancient world and. Here's a possessed object. Here's a stone that they would have called a deity to dwell in. And so our tour guide did not want us to go in there. He had places for us to go and things to see. And I more or less ran into the building and was like, give me 5 minutes. And he was like, no, come back. And by then I'd
We
led
got a video to
small
record.
revolution and led the people astray. Go ahead, Jeremy. You're chewing on something.
Yeah. Well, in Dan where they found the golden calf too.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of backtracking to the whole altar thing. I thought the whole story of that was interesting. So, you know, that all happened once the kingdom was split,
Right.
right? And so he says, you know, it's kind of started as a political movement, really. He's like, everybody's going to go to Jerusalem, so I'm going to put my own altar up. And I wonder, he wasn't supposed to, but he was going to anyway, and he did, to try to give the people a place to worship. And I wonder, when he initially did that, did they have these other gods, or is this just a picture of how fast it can all go to pot? You
Yeah,
know,
I think
once you start,
there
it
were
just builds.
always people who were worshiping the darkness as well as trying to worship the Lord of Jerusalem, the Lord God. And what they did there is they said, you know, we will worship the gods, plural. And there's this very real sense in which they went back and specifically chose the golden calf from their history. And he was trying to rewrite things in his own image.
Because that worked out so well the first time. It's
Well-
like, let's take another run at this whole golden calf thing.
Well, if you read his story, he fled to Egypt from Solomon, and he spent his years in Egypt. And so coming up out of Egypt, he seems to have made the same mistake that the Israelites did when they came out of Egypt, and they went with that calf motif. And so I don't know how well he knew his Old Testament, or I guess it just would have been the Testament then.
It was still just Testament, yeah.
Yeah, just he did how well he knew his scriptures. But it makes you wonder, were there things whispering in his ear? Hey, this is what you ought to do. This is what we want. And the altar site there is incredibly well preserved. It's on top of the hill. It's exactly where you would expect to find a high place, and it's huge. I mean, it's massive. And you can visualize it incredibly well. Some of the trees that are there are just gorgeous, but you can see the walled enclosure, and they've built a model of the altar, the horned altar that was there. I thought that was a really moving place. Again, negative. We hit a lot of negative places
I
as
think
far as
that
the stories
I
go.
read somewhere that they have one of the calves, maybe. It's in a museum.
Yeah,
in
they found a
Tel Aviv.
small golden
yeah.
calf there,
Yeah, so
portable.
Gary found that in the
Pocket size.
museum later.
Oh, did he?
He did, but I think it may have been. You'd have to ask him. He was a little disappointed in it, so I don't know if it was a replica or what the story was. But yeah, he split off and went looking for it.
What was they were excavating more of a dirt face temple or whatever it was. It was like when we kind of came around right before we left. It was the front end
Abraham's Gate.
Yeah, that's the ancient
Oh, that was
Canaanite
cool.
gate.
It
And
was
we
very
missed
strange.
that because after the group moved on, we tried to record, and I don't know if we've posted that or not, but a recording at the site of the golden calf. And then we couldn't find the group. Like, there were a couple roads that you guys could have went, and I was really sure we were going the wrong way. And so Jacob pulls out his Live 360 on his phone, and we're like, they're somewhere over here. By the time we get there, you guys are booking it onto the
It was
next
pretty cool,
site.
though.
drama.
But
I didn't realize that was all going
was
on.
we were
Impressive.
lost and alone in the woods trying to find our people.
This thing is made out of mud bricks,
Hmm.
and it was buried in dirt.
and
How-
it survived.
It
Yeah.
did. And the other thing that struck out to me too is, so was that day 3? Is that
Dude,
what
they
it-
all run together
I
in my
got my
head.
nerd book right
Up
here.
to that
Were you
point-
still taking notes when this was happening?
Notes for day 3. Lovely breakfast at hotel. No, that wasn't the right day.
Lovely breakfast at hotel.
That must have been a breakfast with me and Sheila.
We weren't friends yet. Sheila and I were.
Well, regardless, up to that point, we've been strolling around these ruins on like mosaics that are, I don't know, what, 2,000 years old, maybe older. Like,
Yeah, like
no,
they
don't
didn't
touch
care
this,
at
just
all.
walk on it. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's been here this long, it ain't going anywhere. And the one thing they put a structure over and fence around to protect was that gate.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like
That-
4,000 years old, and we're not going to be the ones to break that gate. I mean,
Well, and it also goes to show you how rare a find that is. I don't know that there is another intact gate like that anywhere in the world, to not just see where it was, but I mean, for all practical purposes, a little WD-40, and you could swing those,
Heck
get
yeah.
that gate working again. Now, obviously, the doors were gone and it was filled with dirt and things, but you don't have to visualize it. It's there. Like, this is what it looked like.
And
It
they
was-
blocked it up so it would hold together. That arch was
Yeah, a
filled
couple pieces
later,
of
'cause when
plywood
they
and a
found
2x4.
They've excavated
Google
back
that.
A little bit of
inside
Buckeye engineering.
Yeah.
We'll take care of
That's
that.
good. We'll block them out. Ain't nobody coming in here. So one thing that blew my mind is showing up to some of these places and structures that Rome built. And when they built them, marble, pillars and just beautiful. The roads are beautiful. I mean, and so much of what they built is still there and it's still in good shape. But I kept thinking about like when they built this, they're like, we're building this to last forever.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know how anybody can think it's not going to, because it's so gorgeous, it's heavy, and yet it's fallen down. I mean, earthquakes and war, and here it is just lying in ruins. What did you guys think of those locations? I mean, I learned a little bit about, learned something about the what do they call them? The places where you do the theater.
They're called theaters.
Well, I know they had the half one and then the full one, like the
An
Coliseum.
amphitheater?
Yeah.
Amphitheater.
There it is.
And then the hippodrome where they did the horse.
I want to say I have cold brain, but that probably isn't such a thing. But I thought those were really, really cool on all the locations too. But what was your guys' thoughts on those spots?
I would love to talk about these ruins of these Roman cities. They were so beautiful, and I know that they're peaceful now because they're uninhabited and just 40 tourists wander over them and stuff. But I just couldn't get over. We were in Israel, right? And this was the Roman Empire, and they could have taken such a pass on putting beautiful things there. It was the outer edges of the empire, and who really cares, But they consistently carved pillars, laid mosaics, made things just so pretty and functional. I mean, this is how they lived, the baths and all that. But just walking on those old streets, and I touched as many things as I could because, I mean, you can't even go to like the Dayton Art Institute and take a flash picture. They're like, don't use flash photography, like it's 1995 or something. And I think in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, I ran my hands over the leather. It was like a tapestry thing from the Crusades, just because I could, I probably shouldn't do that, but
Your oily fingers
I
all
did,
over.
yeah. But I was like, there's so much incense in here, I don't think it's going to matter. But it was, but back to the cities. Yeah, I loved them.
Doo.
But another big highlight there was listening to Bill play his violin.
Yeah, that was
Every
cool.
time we went to an amphitheater or a church, Bill Slesser, he plays for the Dayton Philharmonic, and he brought it along, and he would play it for us. And it, again, it could make you cry. You just sit there and listen to it, and it was just beautiful. So,
Well, it's like Rome wanted to, very proud. I mean, they wanted to leave a piece of Rome and everywhere they conquered, and it just everyone had those roads. There was always two roads that crossed each other in like an X pattern, and there was always shops. But I mean, it was unbelievably beautiful.
and baths.
Yep,
and
bath
awkward
houses and-
toilets.
Yeah. It was. I just thought it was really.
So, what would you
beautiful.
say was your big takeaway, and what was your disappointment?
Well, my take in that particular place?
No, in general.
Oh, I don't know. My big takeaway in general, I have to think about that. I know that my big takeaway when I left that place with the theater and all that stuff was, we spend so much time trying to invest in things that we think will last forever, and it just doesn't. And I kept looking back at all the people that we were walking with and thinking that this is what it matters most, not the structures and the carvings, not the roads, not all the, the pride and again making a name for ourselves, but the people that are walking these streets with me. And it just that's what kind of came back to me over and over again as we walked all this stuff, all this history. The stuff's buried under layers and layers, feet of sand and dirt and dust. And yet, here's another generation of people who are here temporarily, but souls last forever. And I'm like, this is what matters most. And Jesus is saying this as he's looking down at these people, as he's on the water, as he's saying, hey, these are sheep without shepherd. I mean, his thing was about people. And I totally get it. I mean, all this history and so much of it is buried, torn down, fallen down. So for me, it was more of like just a reinforcement of the value of people.
How about
That
you,
sounds
Jeremy?
kind of weird, but
What was your big takeaway, and what was your disappointment? I need a Jeopardy button on here that does like the thinking music.
I don't know that I really had a disappointment per se.
The spiritual people.
No, it's not sure.
It's about the feelings.
you weren't
Yes.
disappointed at the
More
like the
feelings.
tombs and stuff that were covered with churches and all the
Well,
gaudy stuff.
But I expected that.
Okay.
I guess.
I wasn't.
I mean,
Wait a minute.
well,
Peter,
Advantage.
Peter's house. We were all disappointed. with
Okay,
Peter's
disappointment.
house.
Yep. That. I mean, yes. No, it wasn't necessarily like gaudy or anything like that, but it was like just this crab like structure right where you can't actually see what it is there that you're there to see.
Peter's mother-in-law's house.
Like
Yeah.
the spaceship looking
church
It
over
looked
it.
like
it's like a UFO perched
Everybody
on top
out
of
there,
Peter's
go
house.
Google
It looks
Capernaum
like a
and Peter's house.
1960s dentist office that they forgot to put a foundation on. Like, it was the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, sometimes you try to be real modern and you end up being
no,
just
don't
really
do it.
dated.
But
Don't
weren't you
do
guys
it.
surprised at how big this house was compared to all the other spaces? I mean, they had some, I don't know.
Yeah, but they had done some different things. Like there had been a church. Did you catch that? So his was in the center, and then there was something put around it. I think a church of some type, and then they built yet another thing around that. So his actual house was really small, and it was
Okay.
in the center. And I think if you had actually went up into the UFO, they have a window supposedly
UFO.
to where you could actually look
Dentist
down
office.
and see the house itself.
Maybe the view is different from inside the UFO, but
gosh.
from us normal little people outside, it was an awkward view because you really just see the underbelly of this floating church.
Was it raining on us that day? I think I remember trying to find cover or something.
No, but you were
It was
super
sunny.
grouchy. You were, I don't know what was
I
wrong
was
with you.
tired.
You were tired a lot, man.
Dang it.
I'm just saying.
I wasn't grouchy. I was in a good mood the whole time, I think.
Yep, you were up.
That's right. So what about you, Rose? What was your good, bad?
Good, bad. I would say an unexpected takeaway was the people that we toured with. I really enjoyed meeting and, living with people, and I didn't expect that. I thought I would need my space. I thought I would need to get away and process everything I'm learning, and that just didn't happen. We all learned it alongside each other, and it enhanced it to talk about it and relive it and discuss it.
That's true.
And just experience it together. And that was unexpected to me. I would say a highlight for me was Jerusalem, and I didn't expect that either. I was like, 7 days in a city. I can't even spend 1 day in a city. This is going to take some doing. But it wasn't like that when we were there. It was interesting and bustling and just so ancient. And they moved us smoothly from thing to thing and did such a good job of explaining everything. And so I'd say that turned out to be a highlight for me. Jeremy and I spent some time in the old city, and we really enjoyed it.
I'm going to backtrack. The biggest disappointment was Temple Mount. I had never
Yeah.
been up there before, and I'm sorry. I thought it just screamed pure evil to me when I was up there. I didn't like it at all.
Well, we were there during Ramadan. They were getting ready to have their Friday services there, and there was a lot of tension on that hill. And we were even told, get out of the city for a couple hours because things were, and there was some violence that broke out while we were there. And so I also don't think we saw it with its best foot forward. There was a lot of beneath the surface tension
Well, you
Yeah.
could feel
going
it.
on, yeah.
What I thought was fun was that they ladies, and you know that they loved their job was going around and saying, "Oh, your ankles are showing, or your calves," and you need to put. They're making them wear these crazy green skirts. Anyway,
The big yellow stripe down the front.
It tickled me watching them walk around and hand them out to the ladies in our group. Here you go.
Especially because the ladies they handed them to are the most demure, modest,
right.
lovely people.
A lot of them German Baptists
Yeah.
already very conscious
Yeah.
about.
Had what, at least 3 inches of ankle showing?
Yeah,
I mean,
too much. That temptation coming our way.
Oh, man. Well, I think, my friends, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. Thank you guys for putting up with our rambles here. We had a great time in Israel. We hope you enjoyed some of the videos we were able to post. But as a whole, it's going to enrich our study. I've no doubt. I've got lots and lots to think about. We've made great friends, and we anticipate continuing our study and remembering that Jesus is the God of gods, the Lord of lords, mighty and awesome.